Okay.
Very good.
So I'm going to keep admitting people, but I'd like to introduce, most of you know him already, Leo.
Yeah.
The Milonguero in
She's
the
not
UK.
Leo. She's not Leo.
I just dropped in.
And Bridget on my left, who all of you know as well as the other founding member of Tango Fandango. So obviously we're celebrating Tango Fandango this weekend, and this is our first event of the weekend and also the end of the last event of the 3-week. And we are looking at Leo's personal journey through tango, basically. Okay, so I am going to ask him questions, and he's going to explain.
I'm going to try. Yeah.
But feel free, if you've got time at the end, you can ask your own questions to him. So, or if at any point you think there is something of interest you would like him to explain, if you just raise your hand and I'll sort of, you can just ask him. Okay. Oh, there we go. Right, well, our first question for this evening is, what are your earliest memories of tango?
Yes. I feel like in the BBC now when was long time ago. Yeah. Hello. Natalia, no?
Natalia,
Natalia. Well, again the question.
What are your earliest?
Look, because the question is quite interesting. Eh?
What are your earliest memories of tango?
My earliest memory. It's a good question, really, because it's the first thing I remember, really. When I was children, it's the first thing I remember completely.
And what was that memory?
And was when my father and my mother go to the club who was 2 steps close to my next to my house. Yeah. And I remember I was very little and I stayed with my sister, and they come in to say goodbye to me. And I was very upset, you know. And then I stayed with my sister, but I was, I don't know, 5 or 4 or 6 or something like that. I was so little. And I remember when my sister go to the toilet and start to walk naked in the direction where was the milonga, you know, and this music and be naked in the street, you know, with all these the lights was yellow, you know, and cold, and practically this was the first memory I had there. The band, remember the music always. I remember always the music, and this is an image who is in my brain all the time, in my heart.
That all gives a new meaning to the film Naked Tango, really.
Naked Tango.
Okay, so what attracted you to tango?
Well, like everybody knows there, yes. I started to dance very when I was little, really. I think I was 8, so something like that. And normally, my father was a circus man, you know. He was a trapezist.
Trapeze artist.
Yes, but not only trapezist artist. He was a how it's called payaso. How it's called?
Clown.
A clown. Clown trapezist. He came with my mother from Santiago del Estero, or del El Chaco, which is a provincia, and then was they start to the relation in the circus, really, and they come into my Buenos Aires, and then when I start to dance tango, my father was boxing, you know, because in that time was very popular, the boxing. Nothing better than have some fighting somewhere else, you know. and was a lot of friends of my father who practiced, because my father had a back, you know, when they punch, and they practice there. And after they practice the tango. Yes, and they take me, you know, every my father saw some movement or the others saw some movement, and I was a follower for everybody. And I start like that, that's tango, a follower.
That was when you were about eight or so, eight years old.
There, I don't remember exactly.
So this is quite a difficult question because, and it's quite confusing, I think, for a lot of people, because everybody knows that Argentina had a bad period where the tango wasn't allowed. Now, you reckon that it was between Gloria, basically, that you didn't have any tango until about 84 when the revival started, yeah?
Yes, I'll tell you, I was in the military after. You remember? And all this period in the 70s to the 80s, and yes, 70 to the 80s was a very big crisis in the politics and in the government. Then the army take the country, or the powers of the was from the army.
So by what you were saying earlier, you reckon it was about 20, you were about 25 when you started dancing tango again, because for a period there was no tango, and then you were about 25 when you restarted.
In 84, the democracy came again, yeah? And the first president, after a while, after the other period before was Perón, and in that time, when I started to dance again, I was 25, you know, and was more about the music of rock and roll or other music, but the tango was prohibited.
Well, this is my question. Why did you go with tango? Because at the time, rock and roll and disco was very in. All the young people, or many of the young people, were going towards that side. So why did you go for the tango?
Well, the tango always was in the radio, yes, but was censors of the music. For example, one of the sons who always I remember when I meet Brigitte in the school where she was, they chose one song, yes, the Spanish school, who is called Cambalache. And particularly this song Cambalache, who I'm recommending to you to check. Yes, we go to write later about Cambalache. Is practically criticize how the 20th century is, you know, how the 20th century. Then for me, the first thing who attracted me was start to in that time and start to hear again this music who was in my memory.
So you mean from your distant memories as a child, is memories from that time?
For example, Nelly Omar, Pugliese, lyrics of this poet who Enrique Santos Discépolo, who is a philosopher of tango, yes, start to get involved again with the community, and you can hear in the radio again this music who I forgot completely because was private in that time.
So how did you feel when the revival of tango started in the 80s? I mean, did you feel happy? You just said you felt a sense of with your past. Because you had stopped dancing tango during that period, hadn't you?
Yes. Well, yes, and I stopped to dance, but always was in my body, no? Always was there close, because in some party, for example, and my sister's birthdays, my other sister's birthday, my brother's birthday, my mother's birthday, always we dance tango and cumbia and rock and roll. Yeah? Then was a party, but more family parties.
So you're saying the tango was more for family then, more
Yes,
private. It
yes,
wasn't.
exactly.
It wasn't a case of going out
Exactly.
to balls like we do now or to venues.
Exactly.
That didn't. Yeah.
And then in the 84, when the democracy came into my country, we start to dance again the tango. And after the 84 was, for example, started mi club, for example, in Pompeia, who was a very big place, practically it's like a, for example, here the Bournemouth club, you know, the football club was like that big, you know, and you can go and dance there, but was occasionally too. And then it start and after the 84, we start to do many regulars milonga.
What was that like at that time? Because you had stopped dancing and then suddenly all these milongas started appearing that weren't just friends, they were public. What was that like for you?
It was fantastic, but I had to escape from the hospital because I was nurse at that time. And then when I have the opportunity to, when I have some free days in the hospital, I can go and start to dance, you know, again. And it was fantastic because for me, it's like a revival of tango, you know, who was really like that, because I start to see the friends of my father coming some of the milonga and start to see all these people. But the tango was more like something very underground, no technique, no, was more like something you can speak with the others, something you can learn from your friends, but it wasn't a technique of tango really.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, so you would describe from 84 when it all started again, you would describe then as the Nuevo movement of tango because it was
Yes,
revival, yes?
for me the tango started in that era, yes, in that time, because for me the real tango nuevo is Pugliese, for example, Pugliese of the 50, 60, or the music of Aníbal Troilo, or this music who was not exactly marcato or like D'Arienzo, you know, but even D'Arienzo in that time was something different because it was electronic bandoneon, Fresedo with drums, you know. It was completely different, the music. The people, sometimes I hear some milongueros who speak about the golden age of tango, but the golden age, they don't know the golden age really, because probably they are a little older than me. But the golden age was much more in the past, you know?
So when you restarted with the Nuevo movement, you mentioned before that you had the older milongueros, or as you call them, the old guard.
Yeah.
So during this period, everybody had stopped dancing, maybe just private family things. But then when the Nuevo started, how did the older milongueros feel? Did they like the fact that were they called upon? I mean, did people use their knowledge?
This was fantastic because, for example, the canjengue, some people start to teach the canjengue in this Nuevo era. It was in the 84, after the 84. Because before nobody teach nothing of this. Even the shows, for example, like Tango Argentino starting this era, you know, was a channel who was called Solo Tango, where and remember,
What TV channel?
yes,
Mhm.
where you can learn tango in the TV, you know, and remember was Osvaldito Soto, yes, was many people who and now, for example, it's difficult to explain to you, but many people who was in the past who are known start to move again, you know, in the media of tango. And in that time, we have the ability to learn with all these people, you know.
So you're saying the old milongueros and milongueras of the past, the old
Exactly.
guard, came out and started dancing, and everybody learned from them again.
Exactly. And they start to organize each other too. Because
In what way?
many people say, was Tango Argentino, the show Tango Argentino who created everything. In some way, yes. But in the time when Carlos Cope was create the new people for dancing, was other people who already teach tango. Then they start to do some technique who wasn't very how it's called sophisticated. Was very simple way to teach, you know. And in that time, after the 84, everybody start to create new ways to teach tango, no? And they start to thinking about how they do the ochos, how they do the turns. Everybody having a different book in the pocket, you know.
So are you saying up to that point then, when the old milongueros came back to the dancing, are you saying they did have a technique, or are you saying that other people watched them and made technique from watching them? Did the old milongueros just dance?
Yes, the milongueros, they dance, but they have some technique was wasn't very elaborated, was more a little creation who they do, you know, but wasn't a technique like, for example, start to happen in this time in the Nuevo style, you know.
And Natalia is just making a point that it's the point when they develop modern techniques. So basically what you're saying is the Nuevo movement of the 84 is when the modern technique started.
Exactly.
Okay. That's an interesting point. I mean, you know many of the old milongueros who sadly no longer with us. I know one of your teachers was Tete.
Well, yes, what the day. I remember son Susana Miller, for example, start to teach you remember Susana Miller start to teach the milonguero, Tete start to teach the milonguero, which one more?
I mean, Bridget, you had the honor of dancing with Tete, didn't you? I know
Yes.
you danced with him. I am extremely envious of it. Because for me, I saw Tete dancing. I had no idea who he was, but he just stood out for me. I remember, and he was the most fantastic dancer to watch. I mean, he wasn't, he was a big guy, pot belly, but his musicality was sublime.
Yeah.
And I remember asking Leo, "Who's that guy over there?" And he said, "Oh, that's one of my friends, Tete Ruscani." And I know you danced with him, but I was very envious.
But one thing I always remember about it is, especially coming back to this technique and how they teach you technique. Because even in like when I used to go back in 2005, 2010, I had some lessons with different group lessons with Tete. Then you can tell it's from the old, old milongueros. They didn't teach technique at all. If you wanted to learn how to dance with like Tete, you would probably have to study with him for years.
Really?
Because he wouldn't explain a lot in his classes, in his group classes. He just shows you something and he expected you to do it. we will not go into details, probably because they were not used to teaching.
Probably. Well, that's
Yeah.
actually very like one of the early workshops here, that the Argentine teachers didn't speak English, and it was just a case of showing a movement, and now you do it. That's
Yeah.
probably going back to the reason what you were saying, Leo.
Yes, then the technique start in that time. Before was a technique, because you can call the technique, because it was a creation of movement, you know, and the way, and the creation, the technique was more copy
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
different dancers, something who they create. But in that time, after that time, when and I start to see, for example, the lessons of Valdito Soto, and incredible for me. You know, I had the opportunity to take some lesson with the with the couple Pugliese too. I don't remember now how it's called. But was many people. It's like in this time was like if you are an artist, you take lesson with Picasso or Dali, you know, in that time. Was very accessible for everybody. Now these people are mythology in the tango. But in that time is when the technique start to really thinking about when the dancers come to the area of the milongueros, when this mix between dancers and milongueros, they create the real technique.
So who would you say was responsible? Who were the main leading teachers in that period for creating the technique?
Well, for me was the dancers. So, yes. It's some book. It's called the Freedom Tango, something like that. It's called. It's incredible the technique they have there, because she was a ballet dancer who was milonguera too, and he was in Tango Argentino and milonguero, and they start to create the technique. And part of my technique for teaching is practically started there. You know, my technique is my own technique, because and develop some methodology to don't get lost in the translation. You know, then I create my own technique. My own technique is completely different, because it's more like the technique for a language. Yes.
Can I just take you back to the Nuevo movement moment? Because we've talked about the dancing and the teachers. What about the music at the time? I mean, the musicians presumably had gone underground as well at the same time as the tango. So what happened with
in that time, for example, I remember the tuba tango who play canchengue. They start to play canchengue, and in that time, and take a lesson of canchengue with Grondona. With Grondona and Marta Anton. They was together and start to take lesson of canchengue. I know something before of canchengue, but then I start to take lesson again. Yeah. And I start to take lesson with Susana Miller and Tete. And then I start to take lesson with Carlos Rivarola. Yeah. Well, all the great dancers now is many dancers who dance in that time. Now they are teachers, but there was I was called students of these people.
But with regards to the music as well, I mean, there's a lot of debate because there's a lot of confusion about the Nuevo movement and the Nuevo style, which we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the music.
And the music. Many people get very confused with what is
the style.
Nuevo
For me, the milonguero is nuevo, because if you can see how they dance. You can see how they dance in the original Paracultural, who was one of the first bigger milonga who was in San Telmo, no in the Canin. The organizer is Omar Viola, yeah, and he started Paracultural practically was a old factory, yes. Juan, remember, was very big pictures of like this, but big, an artist, and I remember was in that time I was maybe 5 or 6 guys with guitars who come and play every night, you know, all music of Gardel. Then the Nuevo Era for me started in 84, yes, the Nuevo Era. The music is different because the music was, yes, when you say old guard or when you say golden age, yes, this is exists and it's true, but the way we dance tango in this time is nuevo.
So you're making the difference then. It's not just the music. You're saying it's the style of the dancing changed when it's restarted in 84, 85.
Exactly.
And you define that as nuevo, the way in which you dance.
Exactly.
I think this is an interesting point actually, because
it's not just electronic music, because for example, Fresedo put electric bass and drums in the music, yes. Or for example, D'Arienzo have an electronic bandoneon in that time, you know. They have all the old music, but all they start in that time, and the people start to hear again the old music, but they dance different because they create another tango, nuevo, who was influencing the Milonguero style, was influencing the Salon style, and was influencing even in the Canyengue.
That's an interesting point, because I think there is a lot of confusion, isn't there, when you say about what is nuevo. So it's interesting that you're saying that it's the style of the dance. The music may have changed, but it's the actual style that changed because of all the influences of the old and the new.
Because they start to put technique in the dancing, because the influence of the dancers, you know. And of course, the tango, like Aníbal Troilo says, is just one. But if you are a dancer, you want to know about the dance. In the past was the past.
I've got a few questions coming up.
In the 84, everything started again.
There's a few questions that have come up in the chat, which I need to ask you before I lose them. I don't know who this is. It just says iPhone. It's not, so I don't know who iPhone is. It's there, but they haven't got the video on either. So hello.
Hello, iPhone.
Hello, iPhone. But the first question is, how authentic is the Kanchengi that was taught? There were no videos when Kanchengi was danced. So
yes, this is what I'm telling. Kanchengi mean the way you play tango. This was the rhythm of Kanchengi. We call in the Lunfardo, we call Kanchengi the way we play tango. You have the Kanchengi, they say. Yeah, and but the Kanchengi music start practically with the immigrants, the Italian immigrants, combined with the Criollo one, and then start to create the Kanchengi. Yes, who wasn't before. For example, the only one who Anansi dance Kanchengi was Marta Antona and Luis Grondona, who they create a technique for the Kanchengi. Then the Kanchengi we know now, even if we thinking it's very, very far away, it's not.
However,
it started in 84 with all this new technique.
You did say once, I think, that when you were a child, because your father was a milonga organizer and
Yes.
had a lot of friends, used to
Yeah.
come to the house, some very famous musicians, etc. I think I remember you telling me once that one of his friends, who was in his 80s when you were a child,
Yeah.
did actually teach you a few steps of Kunchengi at some point.
Yes, too. Yeah,
So that's probably as far back as we can possibly go, I think.
yes, but the new technique of Kanchenge is the new technique of Kanchenge, who have, I don't say is completely new, but probably has the influence of the past. But the technique who we learn is a new technique.
Going on, or leading on nicely to another question, actually, again from iPhone. Hello, iPhone.
Hello, iPhone.
Did Susan Miller teach something new, or did she copy the old Milongueros? Tete also, did he copy the old Milongueros?
Yeah. I think everybody in that time. Susanna Miller was one of the, I respect a lot her, because she created in some point some technique with the ocho cortado, yes, who was yes, exactly, was close to the ocho cortado we teach, but in that time she creates some movement in the ocho cortado who was a real innovation, really. And then from that point they start to create a little more and more and more. But she put technique in the ocho cortado. Some of the milongueros hate her because because it's woman, and the other is yes, and the second was because she coming with this new technique to try to develop. It's the same than Naveira. Naveira dance tango, but he create another style who probably you can call Naveira, who is an improvisation and it's based in the old tango.
Well, that actually, we've now found out who iPhone is. It's Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
I actually think that Naveira was more of the ones that started this whole Nuevo Tango dance movement afterwards.
Well, we've got another question actually from Natalia, which leads rather nicely into this, because Natalia is asking, what about Nuevo, like Chicho, etc.?
Well, Chicho is one of the best students of Naveira, but Chicho creates his own style too. And everybody knows here, more than in Buenos Aires, the movie Tango Lessons, you know, who this make a very big effect in the movement they create. Yes, very respectful, because they create the one way who now you can combine with other ways, and you can carry on evolve with the tango.
Okay, so that's where we got to. So we've digressed a little bit, but this is good. This is what it's all about.
Hola, Silvia.
So the main teachers in the period. We've already discussed, yes, they were influenced by the earlier tangos and milongueros. And you've said that the technique of the tango became more defined in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Who were the main influences behind this? You've already said, I think we discussed with that one. Do you think there should be a defined technique for tango? Or do you think that tango is too much of a free spirit, as many people say?
Well, it's the dilemma of every teacher, that one. Because the tango is not only a technique. It's just like everybody say, it's a way to live. It's a way to feel. Yeah. But the people get a little confused with what you feel. Yes, because they're thinking, it's passion, it's anger, it's this and that. And it's nothing like that. It's something who you can describe. The feeling, you can describe the feeling, but it's you, this description. It's not the the description who everybody can feel because it's unique. Yes. Then for me, in the way of the feelings of tango, I'm thinking the teacher has to start to teach how you feel the transfer away, how you feel the embrace, how you feel the invitation for the dance, how you do when you have more balance, how you feel when you have more balance, when you more relaxed, when your shoulder is better, when you can communicate better with your partner, and all these things. And for that, you need a technique. Because if your partner is unbalanced, the couple go to feel unbalanced.
So how do you think, if with that in mind, how do you think it all worked back in the past when there was no technique, when it was just basically people dancing, milongueros?
Well, was working in the same way, but the thing is, in the past, the way who, for example, you lead the tango was more physical. And now the way you lead the tango is more energetic. Yes, it's not that physical, it's something more spiritual. So in that time was different because the people don't thinking about philosophy or religion with the way they dance. They have the philosophy, but in the singers and the writers, but not in the way you feel the tango and the way you center your body and do the transfer away to one place to the other. It's different.
Do you think in the past compared to now, do you think it was more male-led? Do you think there were strong women in the past? Because I think today the men and women's roles, or the leaders and followers, are equal. But do you think the tango of the past was more male-dominated?
Yes, was more male-dominated, but always with exceptions. So to some women they call malevas.
What?
The malevas always was in the tango, was a rebel woman, you know? Rebel woman who don't dance only with one man. She want to be free, she want to go and dance alone, or milonguera you can call, but they call malevas before.
That's actually interesting because I think you've told me in the past that when you were younger and it's private tango family parties, your sisters weren't allowed out to dance tango, were they?
Yeah. Well, it's not because it wasn't allowed to dance tango. It's the proximity with some men, you know.
So you're saying it changed then? You have these malevas who are rebel women. So
no, the malevas was completely another things.
I think you need to clarify this because I'm getting confused with malevas here.
The malevas was some women who practically don't have a house call.
I don't know what the word you're fishing for, so I'm not going to help you out here. I don't know.
They don't have they don't have a weight of the society like a normal woman.
Yeah, no? They have no scruples.
Was more smoke, drink, go to the milonga.
Good woman.
Yeah.
Normal then.
Good woman.
Good woman.
So hang on, when were these people about, these women?
Malevas.
What, this is in the past, yes?
Yeah.
So what we're talking, so we're talking what, before the revival of the 80s?
No, before the revival. And the revival was different because everybody danced with everybody. It was fantastic because I remember in the Paracultural, when all these women start to dance, wasn't discrimination, you know, because the girls was 20, 18, they want to dance with the old milongueros. They really want to dance, and it was fantastic to see this, because this is another thing who take me again back to the tango, you know, because was a lot of young people dancing too. And they don't discriminate of age, like now, for example, the dancers are very cliquey. They thinking they know everything, and I don't dance with this and don't dance with the other, and you know, now this is too old. This is too has the eyes like that, or it wasn't like that. You dance with everybody in that time.
They weren't picky, in other words.
The 80s was fantastic time, you know, and everybody want to dance, really want to dance good and nice, you know.
I have another interesting question here from Tony. Did the milongueros and salon dancers mix in the 1980s, or were their milongas focused on styles? So did they mix? Did you have a mix of tango salon on milonguero style, or were there milongas that were just tango salon and milongas that were just milonguero?
In that time, they don't know what was salon, or was a milonguero, or what was nothing. Yeah. In that time, you go to the milonga, they put the music and you dance. And depend which people teach you, you dance the style. Yeah. And was like that.
So you're saying at this point in the revival, there were no styles?
No, wasn't a style.
So when did that start happening?
The teacher started to create the style. Yeah.
But that's very confusing, actually, because this leads me to another question. Because we're always taught that in the 1930s, 40s, depending on the music, you had the milongueros dancing the milonguero style, or the tango salon, the richer people.
But this was in the time of the golden age.
So you're saying all that went, and then when the revival started, those styles weren't there?
Yes, because it was a hole in our culture. There was a hole, and nobody can fix this hole, you know. And then we had to create again the tango. For the old people was sad, because they have this memory, beautiful memory. I want to do. But for us was fantastic, because we were young, you know.
So this is why you're saying that the style that developed became the Nuevo style, because there were no tango salon, there were no milonguero styles.
Exactly.
It had to be rediscovered.
Had to be discovered.
Interesting.
Yeah. In the 90s and 92, 94, well, in that time was more realistic styles, because then it started to was the radicals who say, no, and golden age, or the others say, no, and old guard, or no, and salon, because I may look my clothes, you know. But wasn't like that before. In the 80 to the 90s was the Nuevo style, because was everybody dance tango, and everybody want to create a tango, and the new techniques appearing, and now we dance this time of tango. We don't dance the old the golden age tango. No, because all these people die. And even the people who learn from there, they create a new technique, because otherwise they're not teachers, because wasn't teachers in the old age. Well, was some teachers, but in different way.
So I think this is Tony still. So he's saying, when did the more cliquey behavior start? From 2000 onwards?
Well, it wasn't in Buenos Aires, because even when I moved from Buenos Aires to here, the people wasn't cliquey. The cliquey people is for me start here in England, in London. I'm sorry, but was when they start to choose who dance. Even now in Buenos Aires, of course, you went to the milonga, because in Argentina, if you watch some woman, or some woman look at you for dance, you got to try to ignore if you don't want to dance. But normally
it's quite difficult in the right.
Normally we are we are woman's lovers in Argentina. My mother, my sister, we can be nasty with that, with this gender. Then we dance tango with them. If somebody watch me to dance, and I can make, that, no, I don't see you. But if I see them and she invite me from the table, I move from here and I invite to dance there. Yes, because in that time, wasn't clicky. The clickiness starts here in England, and I see very unpolite people rejected the ladies because I don't know why, many situations, Well, but and I have to tell you other things. Wasn't in the first periods of London, because in the first period of London was very nice people.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, there was the Welsh Center, was how the other the Dom, who they tried to do in the Argentinian way the milonga. Start, when they start the clickiness, when the shows start to come. The shows. Yeah. The shows, because they start to thinking, no, look, because this is friends of this, and this is, look, he dancing the show.
Well, talking of dancing, I have a few more questions here which we need to squeeze in. Oh gosh, hang on. No. Adrian wants to know, didn't the women learn from each other just at home?
Yes.
And Natalia added to that as well. Is it true that women didn't learn anything, they just danced?
The woman want to dance, and then they learn the most as possible, like the men always. My sister can lead, My sister can lead. My sister Gabriela in La Pampa, she can lead, and they dance together. And for example, the balls, they love the balls.
And then Natalia is also adding, is it also true that only men learned from each other and practiced? Is that a truth or is that false?
Well, in the past, probably yes, but not in the 84 and the 90s. The new era, you can, for example, I'm been in the lessons of Alejandra Rue, one of the first milongueras teaching, she always lead, she always lead. She was one of the creators of the bar technique, with the other girl, Graciela Gonzalez, leader too. But they can lead and they can follow.
So Svetlana is saying, what if you didn't have sisters? You didn't have any chance of learning then?
Yeah.
And Sylvia is saying that women just wanted to get a boyfriend.
Well, sometimes yes too. Yeah. But in Carnaval, everybody wants to dance.
Yes, that is what my mother used to tell me. My mother is 85. So they were 7 brothers and sisters. So they practiced with sisters and brothers, but then they wanted to get a boyfriend. She went to dance in Carnaval. You are right, because in Carnaval, people attended to clubs, big football clubs, to dance, to get a boyfriend.
So I think it's been really interesting, actually. I mean, it's fascinating, your description, because although you said little things about the Nuevo movement, what it meant to you, it's the first time I've really heard you expound on it, basically, the way you have, saying that it was a huge time of experimentation. And I didn't actually realize myself that you didn't have the styles in that time, that you were developing all these new styles. That's a fascinating concept.
Everybody developed the style. And for me, it was something special because and I start to read a lot of tango techniques, really. And for example, Rodolfo and Gloria and Maria Dinsel was the ones who really have touched me that book, because they only not only describe the technique of gravity or circulars or fixed who we normally use for the tango. They start to create the idea of the feelings, you know. And for me, always, because I'm coming from my family who are from the provincias in Buenos Aires, then always this connection, spiritual connection with the tango is very important for me. Then I start to develop my technique in that way. Yes, my father taught me once and developed the technique of my father. Yes, and now my sons develop my technique.
This is true. Then
this is carry on. And I know it could be completely different, because, for example, when I, some of the things and take from the Dinsels is the idea of the cylinder in the couple, you know. So some of the ideas of the T is the rhythmical area, or the musicality, or some other ways, for example, and take from Rudolf Nureyev, you know, because I like the lines, the beautiful lines he make, and how you put this in tango, these beautiful lines, and don't look horribly, you know, and the connection, the feelings, all these things get all together, because in the end, tango is something alive. Enrique Santo Discepolo says something very interesting. Why we dance in the anti-clockwise? Yeah, and we dance. He say we dance in the anti-clockwise because we want to stop the time.
That's a lovely quote.
Yeah.
Very good.
And the tango is something present for today. The tango has to be something who the people create. But the thing is always take with respect that things, because there's people who was before than us, you know. Then you can develop your tango, you can create your tango, but why you go to start to, it's like in the, for example, in the Stone Age, when you can have the new technique now and develop from that the tango. You know, I don't say take my technique and develop my technique. I don't say that. I never say that. But you have to try to, this is a new era of tango. No, it's something who you can develop more and you can create more. Yeah, and of course, in some point, got to appear something who, but it's always the improvisation is very important in tango, because it's the soul, it's the spirit of tango.
Well, we're coming up to the end of our hour. We've got about 5 minutes. So I think we've answered quite a lot of questions. But if you want to unmute yourselves and you have a question you want to ask Leo, then please feel free to do so.
But yes, I don't know if it's everybody there.
Yeah, they are, I think.
When they're coming to London, we want La Perla back.
The Milonga.
Yeah, I know they tried to organize a social at the dance lab the other day, but it was cancelled before they actually put it on. So I suspect they had a problem. So it's not open at the moment. We will let you know as soon as. Unless you've got, if anybody's got any questions, otherwise I think we're going to bring it to a close. I think it's been an absolutely fascinating insight,
Yeah, it's
actually.
very, very
Because
good,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, both of us know Leo very well, but he's said things tonight that he's never said before.
The last thing I want to tell you is when now we start to do the new era of tango, the new movement. No,
Does that mean Neil's got a question?
No. Now we start the new era of tango. Yes, don't let the improvisation die because the competitions. Yes, don't get how it's called radicalized by the competition, because when the competition starts, the competition can kill any dance style. Yeah. Carry on learning, because the tango is for the people, the social people. Tango is something social, it's communal. Yeah.
I have one last question here for you, Leo. Do you still does Leo think we still respect the sentiments and values of the old Milongueros?
Well, this is something who the old Milonguero has to.
And Natalia thinks you should write a book.
Yes, the old Milonguero has to work with, because respect is something about the people, no? The people behave. It's I can take my knife and kill who tell me something, anymore. Like in the past, the respect has to be something who you create and you give to your community. I think it's very important to create the rules in the milongas or in the lessons, because then you don't have the friction of the wrong ideas,
The main thing is that we all try to get more people into the community, and that we don't put people off coming in. This tango is a very, very small niche market, and it needs to be much bigger, which is hopefully what we're going to be able to do with the organization Yucata, and start to really spread it. I mean, we've had this Free National Tango Week with many organizers. I mean, the majority of there's more organizers in the committee, in Yucata than out of it now, frankly, far more in than out. We're all working together.
100 and something.
There's over 100 organizers and teachers in it in the moment. And this free week of tango we've had events all across the UK, and it's been fantastic because all the teachers and organizers have been working together, and it's been really, really good, hasn't it? So it's be repeated, hopefully. So this is the way forward, to get new people in. So there's hope for the future.
The last thing I want to say is this: enjoy the tango, but the social tango.
Yeah.
The tango shows, go to watch in the theater, or if you really like the competition, well, it's not a sin to see the competition, but the original, the real spirit of tango is an improvisation. It's a language where you don't have a monologue. It's a conversation between two souls. Yeah, and this is more important for me. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight. We have hopefully recorded this, so we will be able to put it on. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, it says recording there.
I don't know how I end the recording, but stop recording. Probably about that.
Thank you very much.